Good evening, everybody. Zach Martin here, Kids Deserve Dads. Coming to you live today, this Thursday, the day before Veterans Day, and wanted to have something special to talk about. Being a veteran is something we celebrate in this country, and we appreciate those that have gone out there and given so much to keep us safe and give us this great country to live in and help us to have a great life. And so we got Kash Jackson coming on. He's on here right now, and we're going to be talking to him about his in the Navy, coming out of the Navy, family court, and this whole thing through his activism. And Kash, how are
What's up, buddy? Can you hear me okay?
I hear you just fine. Yep.
Good. Good.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for coming on today. I know
Yeah,
Alicia's about to come on here in a second also. So
awesome.
yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for being here and being willing to come and join us. I was just kind of giving a little intro about Veterans Day, and then we have Veterans Day tomorrow, and it's celebrating those that have gone out there and done so much for our country and made such a big difference. And I thought, what an awesome opportunity to talk to a couple of great guys like yourself, Chris Rainbolt, guys that have served our country and given of themselves so much. And we lost you. And given of themselves so much, and then what our country and this court system has done in respect to that. And so that's what we're going to cover today. Also going to cover it next week. You know, it's the week after Veterans Day, right before Thanksgiving. But that also, you know, it can't be said enough about the stuff that veterans are going through. Veterans are like probably 95% men, 90% men, and do so much. So there we go. And do so much. He's coming back on. So it's really, really important. Hey, we lost you for a second. So
Don't know what happened.
it's okay. Facebook, technology, all these things kind of happen all the time. So I appreciate you being patient. And I was just kind of going over the importance of Veterans Day and why we celebrate veterans and how we celebrate how much they've sacrificed and given to us to support us having this great country that we get to live in. And I think in a lot of different areas in our lives, we hear about how veterans aren't treated so well. And
Right.
they don't get the respect that, you know, we give them standing ovations at sporting events and see them on an airplane and say, hey, thanks for the stuff you do. But then when it comes down to giving them money and support for the things they've gone through, we don't have that in our system. And family court is the same or worse than everywhere else.
Yeah, it is. And and you're correct. We spend an extraordinary amount of money on a lot of other things. And I think the veteran community, like many others, we feel disenfranchised. We feel, cast aside. And it's not that we're not acknowledging the really good things that are done legislatively for, that community. But as it pertains to family law, there's Alicia.
Hi.
Alicia.
How's it going?
I'm here.
But yeah, so as it pertains to family law, there are no protections. They will sit and watch their active duty service member, their reservists, National Guardsmen and women, all of them, they'll watch them be cannibalized by these systems, and they just sit by and sit complicit, and it's a betrayal of the service member, it's a betrayal of their family, it's a betrayal of the sacrifices they make, and that betrayal does contribute significantly to their depression and the suicide rate.
Yeah. I mean, 22 suicide, veteran suicide.
How many is it now?
I mean,
20 to 22. I don't think they have really good numbers, because if we really knew what they were, because there's so many people that they'll drink themselves to death. They'll self-medicate. With their depression, a lot of times they self-isolate. They get really, unfortunately, lazy, poor diets, higher cholesterol. The depression gets worse and worse as their physical health deteriorates, and it's a vicious cycle. And those aren't factored in though to the deaths. But
right.
But a lot of it's directly linked.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you're taking a gun or taking pills where they clearly can say it's suicide, and is gluttony suicide? I mean, it might take a little longer, but it's the same results, right?
Right.
In your life sooner. So, and just going through family court is just so traumatizing in itself, and having that experience of you know, I've done all this stuff for my country, and then to be disrespected and have the service that you've done be used against you. Talk about a double whammy. Like, I'm already being objectified for being a dad in this experience. And I'm just trying to be my kids' lives. And now you want to say that my service is now a reason that I shouldn't be trusted around my kids? Like,
oh, the contradiction of the circumstances couldn't have been more, clearer.
mm-hmm.
I mean, here I am. I'm stationed here, first and foremost. Just a few miles down the road from my children is where I worked. My house was literally 3 miles from my children, and I could supervise an entire naval installation. As a matter of fact, Naval Station Great Lakes, number one, it's the only boot camp for the United States Navy is here. And so, they also have the largest naval service training center, which is right next door to the boot camp.
Okay.
And I could supervise all of that. I could supervise thousands of people and billions of dollars. But I couldn't spend time with my own children without permission from the court. It's insanity. Why?
Yeah.
Why? Justify that. Just make it make sense. I want some common sense conversation like this to transpire, and somebody just please make it make sense to me. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Right.
But you can't, and we know that. They can't.
No, and that's the big problem, is that they know that it makes no sense, and that and that it's just out there to take money and to penalize somebody so the state can make a bunch of cash, and they care nothing else about any of it. And they have this ruse. They just have this disguise about, they use the word best interests and think that, we're not going to find out about it, and if you don't have an experience, you don't know about it. Well, the courts say they do these things, right? And don't they care about what's going on? And that's the illusion.
Right.
But then when it comes to reality, that's not what they use.
Best interest of the state. That's what
Right.
it is.
You know what?
Best interest of the state.
I hope that what I say shatters the reality of what a lot of people perceive about the American justice system, and that's all areas of law. Okay, whatever you think about it, if you've not been inside civil court, criminal courts, probates, the family law divisions, if you've not really spent time there, I bet you don't have a real clear understanding. And let me tell you, the entirety of all of it is about human trafficking. They are legalized
Absolutely.
extortion centers. These people operate behind closed doors. They do these deals on the golf clubs, and the methodology in which they are attacking and destroying the fabric of our society, it's done for profit. We do know that, but it does amount to intentional or non-intentional social engineering. We are driving men out of the picture in droves. I don't think we even have accurate number for the mothers that are being driven out, right? Because I've spoken with so
can't
many.
Capture it.
You can't. Men cannot sit there and fairly say that women aren't being impacted when they are, and we don't know if we're getting accurate numbers. We just know it's systemic deprivation of due process and human rights.
Correct.
And
Exactly.
we have to call it for what it is. It is human trafficking. They're doing it for profit. It's basic denials of basic human rights. Never mind due process or constitutionally protected rights or statutes. We're just talking human rights, the right to hug and see and spend time with your children. That's it. I mean, this is not rocket science. So we have really overcomplicated this.
Yeah. Lawyers got in there and started doing things, and then the state saw it could make some more cash, and they just kept lawyers and states just working together. Like, how do we keep manipulating this system to get us more advantage, more things that we need? And who cares about the family? Hey, if more kids are messed up, we have more kids having problems, then we just have more kids in the system to give us more profits and to do more business. I mean, how more social
Additions to the welfare state.
Yeah, you know what? And look, it's going to come around too to where our children that are 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, they're seeing what's happening. They're seeing it in real time. They're seeing it on TikTok. They're seeing it at home, right? They are beginning to learn what is transpiring inside these courts, why they were taken out of the life of the other parent. A lot of these children, like my own, I was very, very close to my children. I had a very loving relationship with them, and I'm confident that they both still love me. But they're aligned against me, and the courts are not going to allow my children to see me. And the mere fact that, it's a slap in the face to sit here in Lake County, Illinois, where these naval stations are, and they don't even have the common human decency to offer me to even speak to my children on the telephone, knowing I haven't seen them over 5 years.
Right.
I can't get a phone call. Oh, he'll see us. The judge said he'll see us back there in December. Well, my children are only 17 and 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, but wait another year. Why don't you?
Right.
Just make clear what your intentions are. I know. It's like they treat you like you're stupid, and we're not stupid. They look down at us. They talk down to us. They're arrogant. They're abrasive. These people do not deserve to be sitting on the bench. They do not deserve to be attorneys. They do not deserve to work in the fields of psychology and psychiatry, because it is a leech system. And I don't know about you guys. I'm just sick and tired of being preyed upon. I'm tired of being victimized by them.
Yeah,
Everybody is.
Yeah, I was in
Everybody.
when I went through my experience, and so I had just signed up for law school because I had written some bills and got beat up by a bunch of lawyers, and I thought that was how I'm going to make the change. And the judge was like, the fact that you wrote bills shows your anger for the system, and we can't have dads doing that. And so that's the reason I'm not going to let you see your kids or your son. And then the fact that you being in law school shows that you're unstable. And because you're unstable, you shouldn't have access to I kind of agree with most lawyers are unstable. But regardless, I was trying to do something to be better for me. And knowing that there's so many guys going through this who didn't have the opportunities that I had. And I got treated like the common criminal. I got bare minimum. I got the least amount of time they could possibly give me. And I think if he would have had any opportunity to do less, he would have. And he came and spoke in one of my classrooms. And he came in there and he was in my class and he knew that I was in there. And my professor had a discussion with me before he showed up about what I'm allowed to say or not say, which was basically nothing. And he
get gagged.
Who basically talked down on non-custodial parents, and he picks the winner and the loser, and that he goes after that non-custodial parent as much as he can at the furthest extent of his law, and he has no mercy on any of those people. He's saying this in the class. I'm on the third row, just looking at this guy going, I cannot believe that you're saying these things. And I'm listening to this judge talk about how he's out here intentionally harming families and trying to punish this person as hard as he possibly can because they split up and they got divorced or they're separated, and now we get this person. Like, what kind of answer is that? And so the next class, before we talked, I talked to my teacher. I was like, I have got to speak first. Like, you can't do anything until I have a chance. And he's like, perfect. And it was like, that is the most ridiculous comment I've ever heard. And the fact that a judge would say that stuff out loud, that's how he acts, that's exactly what's wrong with this whole entire system and why I'm in law school right now to change it.
They will all say it out loud. They all say it out loud.
They all say it. And there's no cost, right? There's no penalty for them.
There's none. And that's the key. There's no penalty.
Yeah.
Right. But there is. But there is.
Right.
There are penalties for what they're doing. The thing is that it makes people uncomfortable to talk about the penalties that
cutting out a little bit.
Upon. I don't know how much experience you guys or the general public has with the definition of treason and sedition and what types of acts that looks like. Well, I'm not going to make this real complicated.
Look what they're doing to people right now.
Right, it does. Well, I mean,
that one thing that happened.
It amounts to aiding our enemies, right? If we're in any methodology, if they are intentionally or even unintentionally aiding this nation's enemies, they are in effect, by all accounts, committing treason. And why? Now it might not be the pathway in which we most commonly think of treason, but I want you to look at it this way, okay? If you take, and this community alone is a very large veteran community, okay? The county of Lake in Northeast Illinois.
Yeah.
If you were to take this demographic, okay, and they're taking veterans like myself, depriving us of our children, weaponizing our military service against us, all right, psychologically, financially, emotionally, and even sometimes physically breaking us down. And what are they doing, and what are they using to do that with? They're using status statutes and unconstitutional law that they are enforcing upon individuals that are tasked and even paid by you, the taxpayers, to support and defend the United States Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So these people are weaponizing statutes, breaking constitutional law, even breaking their own statutes, and they're doing so and causing very real harm to the veteran and active duty and reserve communities.
Right.
Tell me how that's not treason. If you can cause an active duty service member or a veteran or a reservist to even consider suicide because you have destroyed them in these courts, they've assassinated their characters with libel, with slander, these unscrupulous attorneys, these dirtbag attorneys that charge extraordinary amounts of money, and you've got some young serviceman, some young servicewoman right up the street here, find themselves in these court and they prey upon them while shaking their hand and looking them in the eye and saying, thank you for your service. They gaslight the shit out of them. They betray them. And then when these young men and women take their lives because they're not seeing their children, or they can't afford anything because the state's garnishing 65% of their pay when they fall behind on child support. I mean,
Right.
It's outlandish that we're allowing any of this to continue to exist in this country. And your First Amendment is your best weapon, right? Besides your backbone, right? Your intestinal fortitude to stand up and to say something and to speak up, and go, you know what? Okay, I might be afraid, but that's the very definition of why we have courage, right?
Right.
You cannot have courage without the presence of fear. So if you are afraid, well then good. Now you have the opportunity to be courageous and to stand up and to say something and to do something and to fight back with the rest of us, because ultimately that's what will serve all of us in the long run. If we all work together, we plow forward, we just say, hey, you know what, we got to set the egos aside. I don't agree with this person, that person. We can, I'm telling you, through peaceful means, but very civil and direct means with these people, we will get them pulled off of the bench. And I don't want to stop until I see them prosecuted. That's me personally. I don't know how other people feel, but these people deserve
everybody.
criminal
That's everybody.
prosecution. I mean, this is
Right.
racketeering. It's treasonous.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not sugarcoating what this experience has been for me.
No. Yeah.
Right.
I think a good transition into like talking about your experience. I mean, you've been away for a while, and your activism, the things you were doing after the military, because of your experience in the military and family court, is what got you in trouble. And I'd like to hear more about like the stuff you were doing beforehand and what led up to the experience of you going to jail.
Well, the first time I actually went to jail was January of 2017.
Oh.
And
Right. Yeah.
one of the judges that I was convicted of threatening, this is right after I came in from Standing Rock. I don't know if many of your listeners are familiar with what happened in Standing Rock back in 2016, but it was an event that was important that I took part in. But after I came back from that event, I had a rule of show cause hearing, a contempt hearing, and people flew in from all over the country, some from Puerto Rico. One guy came from Puerto Rico, and to that court hearing. And because I wasn't essentially paying upwards of $3,000, $3,500 a month in child support, which amounted to, I think at that time around, because I'm out of the military at that point, it was around 55% of my income. And I couldn't afford to pay that. There's no way I could. And
Who can?
Anyway, so they put me in jail, but I was in my dress blues. With medals, and I wore that because at a previous court hearing, he told me not to wear my uniform in his court again. So when I came back the next time, so before that I was in just my service uniform. And then when he told me that, I was like, okay. So then I came back the next time and I put on my full dress with my medals. Yeah, it was like two middle fingers. Right. And then he put me in jail.
Yeah.
Debtor's prison.
Oh, completely. I mean, how they're getting away with it is they're calling it an obligation, right? And so it's not a debt that you owe; it's an obligation that you have to pay.
Right.
I mean, it's a nuanced word.
Right.
It's a Yeah,
lipstick
lawyer.
on the pig.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
Prison. And you had already then been you went to court for county court in 2016, right? And were given the least amount of time you could possibly get, or what did you have for custody? Right?
Yeah. So first thing in 2014, it began in 2014. Divorce, custody, everything was finalized November 2015, and it was supposed to be. It was actually my schedule was supposed to be graduated, where I moved up slowly from basically like supervised visitation to a few hours unsupervised to an overnight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And gradually, it was supposed to gradually build up like that, right? In accordance with the settlement agreement that I never agreed to ever. I signed under duress on the record, but according to that, I wasn't supposed to get my children for an overnight weekend for like several months. As soon as I signed that, as soon as that thing was signed and we walked out the door, she had messaged me that very moment and said I could have the kids that weekend.
Right.
What? It was insanity and
so
what
just going through the whole entire court process was just to dig with you.
You know,
Exactly.
the
Well,
average person's mind would explode. Like if I handed you that contract that I was forced to sign, coerced to sign, if I handed you that and you read it, no way would the average person ever agree to that.
Right.
Right. And that's what they're getting a lot of us is they dupe us, they coerce us in the beginning to signing something they know we can't fulfill. There's no way.
Yeah.
It's insane. So, that got me into activism. I became an activist. I became some people called me a father's rights activist. I might have even said that myself. But really when it came down to it, I was just a father, just a man who saw a wrong that was being committed and said, somebody's got to say something about this. Somebody's got to do something.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do whatever I can, whatever that is. And I don't have those answers, but I'm going to try and continue to try. So that
thought you had
activism,
the answers.
well,
You don't have the answers.
I know a lot of what not to do.
We all have a plan, right?
That's important.
Those,
Gosh, that's why you're here.
right? I mean, hey, if you don't do this, it didn't work for me. Is a good.
Right?
That's a good lesson right there.
Right.
Can save people lots of time.
You can learn the lesson, right?
Yeah. I think maybe when I'm a kid, you can't learn a lesson from somebody else doing it, but as an adult, you can definitely get the lesson from somebody else. So
agreed.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so I kind of just spearheaded into activism right out of the Navy, went right into it, and I knew there was a chance that I might not see my kids. That was the scary part. That was the calculated risk I was taking, was knowing, because he had made it clear, the judge made it clear, if I keep speaking up, there's going to be consequences for you, sir.
Yeah.
Right.
And there were. He made damn sure he severed contact with my children, and I've not had access to them since. Not one phone call. I probably paid $100,000 in child support. That's insanity.
Right.
It is.
I can't get a phone call. Like with today's technology, with these phones, I should be able to video chat with my children every single day, get photographs. Hello, I can't even get a photograph. I mean, that's how little they think of us. Right. I can't even get photographs of my children to watch them grow. Nothing.
Nothing.
That's and who gets to decide that? Who gets to decide to do that to us?
Right. It's like they made this decision in your case, and in so many cases where this happens, without you even doing anything to harm them.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like abused your kid.
No.
I was a great dad, and they would say that I was a great dad, and everybody agrees that I was a just fine dad, like everybody else who's not abusive. And then I'm being treated, and then politically, because you have a problem with how I'm showing up, which makes you look embarrassed, possibly and probably.
Yeah.
But you're punishing me and my kids because of your faults.
Yeah.
And your inability to cope.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you cannot question the system. That's what it amounts to.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, that's tyranny.
Yeah.
If they say, you will not question us, we will not have any transparency, you have no right to transparency with us. We have the right to go in these closed chambers and do pre-trial conferences till the cows come home,
Without
aka
you.
we're going to rig the case. These are public
Right.
hearings. Why isn't every single thing they say about that case required to be said in that courtroom?
Right.
If it's not in a filing by the attorneys and on file, anything else, like the attorneys, of course, have to negotiate over the phone and do whatever. They do that business. But this nonsensical stuff of going into chambers, going into private breakout rooms on Zoom, it's just all a financial extraction scheme, a gigantic Ponzi scheme.
Even something as simple as being able to record in the courtroom yourself.
Yeah, why can't you?
I mean,
Why can't you?
you want to know what
It's a
happened?
public
Oh,
space.
guess you're gonna.
Well,
You have
they
to pay for a transcript. Pay for the transcript.
and then they
right?
leave
Yeah,
transcripts, leave things out. Like they can conveniently
Yeah.
just they work for the judge, right? Like
Right?
that transcriber isn't your transcriber; they're the judge's transcriber,
right.
Right.
and
I-
conveniently leave things out. I mean, I got a story about that. It's not my time, but
Right.
that happens, right? And that's real things. Like they say things that are like, holy shit, that's like illegal, but then you get the transcripts and that's not in there.
Right. Like why does the judge have the authority to tell the transcriber, don't put that in the record?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey, you know what?
This
You
is
know what
supposed to be a record. A record means everything that's said, not what you don't get to. That's shaping the record. That's fixing the record.
Yeah.
Right.
That's developing a narrative, and they did that to me whenever they entered a plenary order of protection against me.
Yeah.
And because I clarified with the judge, I'm like, do I understand you correctly to say that you're going to punish me for expressing the First Amendment right that I fought for the last 20 years? Is that about right? He laughed in my face, and said, yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do to you. And he did. My children weren't permitted to attend my military retirement ceremony. Here I am getting letters from Presidents Obama, Bush, Clinton, numerous governors.
But your kids can't.
I'm getting all of these
go.
letters of accommodation and medals and awards and accolades. And what a disgusting contrast when at my retirement ceremony, I don't even have my children.
Right. The two people you care about being there the most, right? I could get 0 letters from any presidents. I want a hug from my kid.
I want
and
my children.
a photo
Right.
with them.
But no, I got to go pay $35, I think, for an hour to see them at a supervised visitation center. Again, with no allegation of endangerment or anything.
Right.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
They do that so often. They put these guys through the stuff, and I was talking to somebody about the other day that basically they pigeonhole you with that stuff, right? They give you that minimum amount, and once they get a minimum amount of experience, their intention's never to graze it up from there. Like you have to file more stuff. You have to go and push the court to actually make the changes that they said they were going to do when they started. And they
So you fork them money.
supervise visits, and then you want to get out of that? Well, I guess you got to pay for another court date to get a supervised visit.
Look, the solution is, in my opinion, record everything and broadcast it.
Yeah.
Just record it. I'm telling you, go get yourselves glasses, pens, whatever you can find that they have on the market. There's a zillion and one things that you can find. Get it, record them, document it, put it on TikTok, put it on Instagram, put it on Facebook, put it on Twitter, dump it in all your social media groups. The mainstream media don't care. They're bought and paid for. They get all these advertising dollars from law offices. They're not going to freaking undermine that funding. They're not going to do that. So we got to do it, And everybody's afraid to. So I know somebody's going to say, "Well, Cash, you're telling people to break the law." No, I'm not. I'm telling you to uphold the law because crimes are being committed. People like myself. I mean, I held a top secret clearance for nearly 10 years. Do you think any of these freaking wackadoodle judges and corrupt bar attorneys in here had a top secret clearance and had the FBI investigate their background and tear through their record? No. No. They're in there doing cocaine off their briefcases before they go in there and extort some poor parent. Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing.
Right.
It's a circus. These people are a 3-ring circus. You can get second graders to use artificial intelligence to draft up all of these motions and briefings and everything else. You don't need these freaking people.
Right.
Yeah, then you look at this paperwork, and this stuff is not on. It's so extensive. It's so time intensive that we as people don't have the time to do it. It's not that it's really complicated.
Yeah.
They don't have the right to do the crap that they're doing from the beginning, and the judge knows that. And when the judge knows that and doesn't say anything and doesn't correct that behavior, that means it's organized crime. It's racketeering, and that's what they are.
Exactly.
They're gigantic con artists, and we've all been sold this con by, the American education system, the indoctrination system that all of our areas of government are somehow moral. There's nothing moral about what these people are doing. They're exchanging money hand over fist. They're trafficking young children. They're trafficking adults. They're robbing people of their very lives. And, we just generally turn a blind eye to it. And that's, excuse my French, it's horse shit.
Right. Well, and it is. I think most people are stressed out and just trying to just get by with what they have to do in their daily life, just trying to survive the experience, and to think about any other work, to do any extra stuff for somebody else, let alone themselves, is just too much.
Yeah. Oh,
Well,
don't get me wrong. It's cumbersome.
Yeah.
The paperwork and all these filing requirements and all these little catch holes that they'll use to catch you up and reject your filings. I'm not saying that the practice of law is easy. They have definitely designed it in such a way that you do need formal training or a lot of experience within it, which comes with time, unfortunately, and time equates to suffering when you're in this, So, oh yeah, it's like, imagine sending our children to learn something very complex, but they have to suffer while they learn. That's what these non-custodial parents that go pro se got to do. They have to suffer psychologically. They have to suffer emotionally. They have to suffer financially. They have to stress day in and day out while also trying to consume all of this knowledge about law, just so they could fight to see their babies from a state-sponsored terroristic organization that sits right in the county square.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, give me this show. Let's put on this production for us. Let's see all your drama out here on the table.
Yeah.
Let's have you guys battle it out. Like, throw all the dirt. Let's go.
They don't have the fortitude. They don't have the fortitude. What? And there's plenty of them out there, and they watch this. I learned during my criminal case that Lake County had been surveilling me for well over a year before I was ever charged with a crime. Now, you could really, one could probably say that, my crime, and I would argue it's not a crime, based upon my interpretation of the law and what it says.
Right.
I never denied making a threat, right? But there's a difference in a lawful threat and an unlawful threat.
Right. Under duress, etc.
Under duress, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Under duress.
Yep. I totally forgot where I was going with that point, and I started to go down that rabbit hole over there, and then you better pull me back.
Well, I think that rabbit hole is kind of where we're at right now, right?
Well, no, it is. It is.
Yeah,
what happened?
You were denied seeing your kids. You were prevented from being around them. You were being a major face in the father's rights, parenting movement, speaking out for veterans and leading the way of like how we're treating our veterans and how we're treating parents and kids is wrong, and this is not okay. And
But
this
not
judge,
just that, there was like Standing Rock too, and I'm that.
Yeah.
It mattered. It absolutely mattered.
It did matter. Look,
Everything.
a lot of people did not like me going to Standing Rock, which was strange in itself, because it's like, well, one, it's historic, so just to be able to go, if you could, I would have recommended it anyway. It was a historic event.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of people don't realize the significance of that event.
Mm-hmm.
But moreover, look, if we ever want attention for our cause, we have to be willing to reach out to other people and look and see where they're suffering as well, and have enough care and interest about, other communities that we might not have taken interest in before. But by extending ourselves and our compassion and our willingness to learn and integrate into other communities, we build relationships with other people who really have an intimate idea about suffering and generational trauma. And we can learn a tremendous amount from one another, because that's what we're experiencing. It's what our children are experiencing. And who better to, to fight alongside than, Native Americans in this country that were fighting for their land against very large corporations, very powerful corporations.
They've been battling to keep their way of life and their tradition and culture alive since white people got
right. Right. I mean, you can't, I'm no white apologist.
Yeah.
I'm not going to apologize for something that I had no part in hundreds of years ago. But I can look objectively at the circumstances and go, yeah, of course there was tremendous wrongs committed that were perpetuated for decades, because I don't even think that Native Americans couldn't practice any of their religious ceremonies until I think 1974, 1978.
Yeah. And
so
I mean,
that's when I was born. I mean, that's crazy.
The kids, and they're getting shipped off to the East Coast to go get indoctrinated into Western culture,
Right. Boarding schools. Yep.
Hard enough not going to see our kids here, like having that stuff where you have a government who you just fought a huge war against it, maybe a generation or two before, and they're now all your kids are getting shipped off and you have no say-so, no right to see them. You're just stuck without your kids. Yeah. I mean, the destruction of the Native American culture and stuff has just been, it's been awful. And I live here in Rapid City, South Dakota, and there's a huge Native American population in South and around this area. Standing Rock is just north of the border, and right on the Missouri River. And I get to see it every day, and those things stick when you get something bad into a family dynamic and stuff. Those wounds stay around, they pass down and they keep going, and people keep giving that trauma off to each other.
That's right.
And making more trauma, and to fix it is such a monumental task.
Yeah.
And people are, how do we fix this in the Native American cultures? It's like, where do we even go?
Where do we begin?
Yeah. And
well, I mean,
we're doing the exact same thing to ourselves by removing half of our family and making the family an obsolete unit. You don't need a family. Just go have a kid with anybody. And then one of them has to walk away and the other person gets to have everything. And, your kids don't need you. They just need your cash.
Well, that the ultimate indoctrination part of this is that the children bear witness to the fact that these judges, when exercising this type of authority in the manner in which they do it, in many instances, what the child is going to perceive and know is that mom nor dad has any true authority, only the judge. Ultimately, that's going to be the impression that is left within the child's mind, because they are going to see and they are going to hear the remarks made by the parents, and they're going to piece each piece of this together. And the idea that formulates in their mind is an understanding: mom is superior to dad, or custodial is superior to non-custodial, and judge is superior to that. Judge being the ultimate parent, and that's why they choose to exercise what they believe is parens patria, this idea that the state is the supreme parent, and they believe that.
They do.
Now you tell me that's not radical. You tell me that's not radical.
They teach it in law school. Like you are a parent at the discretion of the state. In case, and the state's
that is a radical, dangerous, misguided, dysfunctional. I mean, you pick something that is effed up.
Yeah.
And that we allow that and we don't say more about that. It definitely, unfortunately, shines a light on our own ignorance about what they're doing and what their belief system. This is a radical ideology that is attacking the fabric of American society right here, and we're being distracted with everything outside our borders. There's no threat greater in this country, to this country right now, than right here inside the American judiciary.
Yep. No, they're putting people against each other. They're dividing families. They're destroying the fabric of our community, and then letting the remnants just go out there and do what it is, and there's no accountability for anything they do, and they get away with all of it. And even if you did have a chance to fight it, most people don't have the ability to keep going. Like, if they do something wrong, you're done. You're done at the first hearing. Who has another $30,000? Who can keep going? And you're just been traumatized.
Right.
When does
you're done.
stop? Yeah.
And they know it. And they know it.
Yeah.
They know what the average American's walking around with.
Yeah.
I mean, the data is right online.
Yep.
They can look up right in their county and see. And it's one reason they're so predatory here, because there is a lot of money in this county.
Yeah.
And they are like piranhas.
Right. We're like, let's get more divorces. How do we break up more families here in Lake County? Because
yeah. How do we litigate these for the I mean, I'm coming up on 10 years of continuous litigation. I'm not even kidding you. My court file is like this thick. I'm not even joking. This is ridiculous, dude. And it all began with the initiation of an illegal contract that I never signed, ever. They've been enforcing this thing upon me for a decade now. They have browbeat me, and I'm just not taking it, man.
Yeah.
I'm just not. I'm sorry,
I'm glad you're back, and I think we need more people standing up, and more people that have gone through the experience to stand up and fight, and you've had to continue to keep going through it, and you had a chance to go and really dive in yourself, and it sounds like you've put a lot of time into thinking and growing, so you can actually go out here and do this, right? Like, you had time to just get ready.
Yeah, let me tell you guys something too. There's ways you can fight back, believe it or not, right? And I'll give you an example. This dirtbag attorney that represents my ex-wife and her interests. I did a live feed one day, and I discussed what this man did and what he talked about and everything, and I laid out my perspective and even my own feelings and thoughts about this man. And well, what did people do? Well, they took it upon themselves to leave reviews for him. And when those attorney reviews on Google or wherever else, and when they plummet, that's money.
Yep.
That's money. That's money for them, and they don't like losing money.
Right.
But they have no problem taking our money. You can think creatively about ways to go back after them. But one of the best things that you can do is that transparency. If people, take factual material about what an attorney has done or is doing, and they go and post that on a review, you are educating the next person about the danger that lays down, down the pathway for you. And by doing so, it then begins to dry them up of their financial resources, because the American public go, you know what, we're gonna tell the world about you. These ARDCs, these attorney accountability boards and judicial inquiry boards, it's the wolves guarding the hen house.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
this.
Yeah. Public transparency, diming them out.
Right.
Just,
Yeah, I mean, they just make it hard as they can, right? I mean, the goal is to stall and to put everybody off, And you talk about like the guys that are down in Texas that are going and watching courtrooms and that kind of stuff, and around this area, you can't go in there and watch. Like in Wyoming, you can't go and watch courtrooms that are family court.
No court watchers. No, not allowed.
I mean, my mom couldn't be in my courtroom as moral support.
What?
She wasn't allowed. Yep.
What?
My mom was
Again,
not allowed.
it depends. I think sometimes it depends, but
Well, it
does.
It does.
No court watchers.
Yeah, no court watchers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and that's South Dakota?
That was in Wyoming. So
Wyoming.
Yeah, Wyoming.
And that's
South
really
Dakota.
surprising. In Wyoming, of all places.
Wyoming's really bad. We have a Republican. There's a lot of rhinos in Wyoming, and I think
all rhinos.
mostly.
It's all rhinos.
It's like
there's a couple that aren't. Just a couple.
When the Democrats put stuff up, and there's only 2 cities in Wyoming that have a Democratic population. There's like 3 House reps, and when they put stuff up, that stuff goes through like every time, because there's more left-leaning Republican House members in Wyoming than there are actually like real staunch Republican. I mean, they were shutting everything. They did all the Obamacare stuff. Everything that was going on with the coronavirus. They were like, we're gonna hit every coronavirus jackpot we can get.
Oh yeah,
we did.
Oh yeah.
Too.
How do we?
Yeah.
This stuff, man. Let's take advantage. Yeah.
They jumped
extra
on that.
Extra cautious. Can we get 3 shots, please? We need extra shots. So
right.
Triple.
You know what, hey, it's a radical idea, in both thought and in practice. But I mean, truly, the federal government should probably be abolished. I mean, I mean, think about it, right? Under threat of force, okay, under threat of force, and that's what taxation amounts to. Under threat of force, they extract our resources from us. They do. True or false? They do.
Yeah.
Because
We're
if you don't
just
pay your taxes,
them in business.
they will,
Fearful.
right, they're going to
Yeah.
escalate the force against you until they get from you what they want, right? Up to and including putting you behind bars.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. We make money there too. So
and so they take that money that they take from force, and then they funnel it back to the states and incentivize the states to take our kids from us.
yeah.
Hello. And we shouldn't abolish them. Why? But
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. It's just really sad. You know, when you're young and young adult, especially getting into this kind of stuff, you don't realize how bad our government and stuff abuses our kids and our families and stuff, and just really treats us horribly. And then you
Yeah.
start getting into it, and your kids are in school, and you see the food and the work that's required, and how
broccoli.
Yeah, the broccoli. Don't give my son soggy broccoli. We're gonna have fun.
What?
Cafeteria, and they had the soggy broccoli they were feeding, right? And 30 kids at the table, because I'm like the school favorite. I'm like, the kids love me. And it's first graders, right? And so all these kids get this meal, and the thing that they got with it, the wonton was okay, but the broccoli was so soggy. Not one kid ate it soggy, and somebody was like,
I would have ate it.
yeah, I ate one piece of it, but it was terrible. It was plain. It's like they put it in boiling water and just let it sit there, and then just like portioned it out for the kids, and it was terrible. So
have you've seen the amount of
I can relate.
food
I can
that goes
relate.
in the trash?
Yeah. And it was
Oh.
I can relate with those children.
right.
I can.
Eat that broccoli,
Yeah.
'cause you know what?
The
next- Be worse. So just eat it. So what's next for you? What are you going into now? Like, you know, you're here today. What's your plans? What are you looking to do this winter and going into next year?
Well, I'm trying to stay out of prison.
I like that idea.
And that's an effort some days. You know, it's
Real
like,
quick. Well, do you have an update on when you're going to be able to go home?
April. April.
Wow.
What?
Okay.
Like this is funny, right?
Sure.
And this is an indictment on the system right here. I'm sitting in Lake County, Illinois. Number one, I have to burden my friend that I paroled to his house. Okay. He has to give up his Second Amendment right while I parole to his house, which really flipped me, because I'm like, wait a second. I got to have somebody's residence to go to when I get out, or I go to a halfway house. So my buddy takes me in, but you release a convicted felon into somebody's house and you make them give up their Second Amendment right? What?
Right.
Hold on.
Why do I have to get rid of my stuff because I have paid here?
What? Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Wow.
so anyway, so I'm stuck here.
Good friend, right?
And yep, and using taxpayer dollars, right? I'm using up lots more of Illinois taxpayer dollars on parole here. So I'm doing that, just sitting here talking to you guys, using up Illinois taxpayer dollars when I could be out of my buddy's basement and back in my house in Arkansas that I pay for.
Right.
I mean, never mind.
But you'd still be talking to us.
Right.
I would be.
He'd
would be,
still
yes.
talking
You'd
to
be
us.
slightly,
He still would be,
and that's
Right.
about it.
Right.
but happier.
Yeah.
But
A little bit.
it is what it is.
And so
But,
you're stuck in Illinois until April when they have like you're off probation. Is that what the
parole
Okay.
could come off early, but I don't expect it because, well, I mean, already got showed the unfair treatment start to finish.
Yeah.
I don't expect them to do anything to really be in my favor. You know what I mean? They're not going to do anything to help me or assist me. They want it to be as painful as humanly possible, drag out the pain and the suffering for as long as possible. That's their MO.
Not surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not surprising.
So for the immediate future, you're hanging out in Lake County at your friend's house. And what are you working on? What are your future projects? What's your project right now?
I'm working, so I took back up working on Veteran Liberty Network, which I had began before I got locked up.
Yep.
And it began as a nonprofit They're in Arkansas. I'm not current, I guess, because, well, duh. I was locked up for a couple of years, so I'm delinquent. But anyway, I don't know that I'm going to continue down the nonprofit route with it anyway, simply because I don't like the bureaucracy of board members. I don't like dealing with that. And ultimately, when you've got, lots of personalities managing the same entity, you can have a lot of red tape, and I don't like red tape.
Yeah.
But so anyway, I'm working on rebuilding, or continuing forward with Veteran Liberty Network, and my ultimate idea is to one day be recruiting and training veterans into journalism. And I've been doing independent media and journalism, much like what you two are doing right now.
Yeah.
This is journalism. Whether or not people want to call it that, that's exactly what it is. And I applaud you guys for doing it. We need more of it.
Thank you.
But so I want to build Veteran Liberty Network into an investigative journalist organization. Myself and people that have worked alongside me throughout this process over these years, collectively, between all of us, we have some amazing footage. I mean, from Washington, out in Washington, D.C. at BLM marches. We were there on January 6th. We captured a lot of footage from that. We've been out to Standing Rock, North Dakota. We have covered the Dakota 38 ride, the Leonard Peltier ride on a couple different occasions. So we've done a multitude of different different areas of journalism all over the country. And I've had different people join me at different times, and that's part of the grunge journalism aspect of what it is that we do. I call it grunge journalism because it's not like you're clean. I don't want it to be like the real cleaned up, closely edited, boxed up, packaged, Fox News, CNN, ABC. It's more like, I just like working men and women, getting out there, getting into the trenches like what we're doing right now, discussing these issues, extracting information, submitting FOIA requests, doing court watching, doing First Amendment audits. To me, that's all part of grunge journalism, man. The people are out there and they're rocking boats and they've had enough. They're like, man, we're going to show the world what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because we're tired of all this government nonsense and hypocrisy of you're going to hold us to all of these standards, and you're going to hold yourself to a separate set of standards, and we're just fed up with it. So I'm building Veteran Liberty Network as a First Amendment sledgehammer with which to crush my political opponents and break their will.
I like it.
Crush them.
They've not broken mine. I mean, I'll give them an A for effort because they've damn sure tried. But I'm a resilient person. And I'm stubborn. So
absolutely resilient.
I mean, that's one of the best things about it, and I think of your story is that all they've done is try to beat you down, right? Like they've kept hammering. We're just gonna keep putting more weight on you, and then you've just taken it, and maybe not always graciously and stuff, but that in stride with I'm here to like do something, and you guys aren't gonna just objectify me and beat me down. I'm gonna keep standing for what's right for myself and for everybody else, and you can't stop me.
Right.
And all the actions they've done, all the things they've done is it's in my experience only solidifies your desire to continue to keep going out there and making this change.
I'm like you people keep making my points for me. Like I don't even have to do it. I don't even have to open my mouth. Just your actions alone and what you do. I mean, a $1 million bail for words.
Yeah.
I mean, they treated me like I was Timothy McVeigh up in there. They brought me in there, and they brought me up in that courtroom in like a white hazmat suit, like a freaking Hannibal Lecter mask. I'm shackled up like this. I mean, my hands, my feet, everything. I got a waddle in there. They got press in there. They've got 10 police officers in there. 10 police officers in the courtroom. The sheriff is in there. They got dogs outside the courtroom door. Yeah, I'm dead serious. That's how they treated me.
Next time you come on the show, we're gonna just do a picture with you with the Bane mask on. So just
it's Hannibal Lecter, not Bane. Hannibal Lecter.
Maybe Hannibal Lecter.
Not Bane.
We can do
a
couple different
brief.
so yeah.
Yeah, that's how they treated me. Hey, when I got escorted throughout the county jail, they had like a little card, right? Like it's like an inmate ID card. It's got all your information on it. And on the back of mine, they required me to have 2 what they call CRT escorts, right? And these are like your crash team guys, the ones who come in with batons and shields and napalm.
Yeah.
When they come in there and beat you down in your cell, right?
They recognize the power.
You could identify them because they're like in green tactical suits,
Yeah.
And so you know that these are your CRT guys. Well, anytime I had to go to court, they had to get 2 CRT people to escort me to court. And I seen on the back of my card when we were going down the elevator one day, because one of the COs was looking at it, and I seen on the back of it, and they had me labeled as an escape risk. I'm like, what? What? The only thing I ever escaped was 2 bad marriages. Other than that, I've not been good at escaping anything. I've been able to get the clutches of these people out of my back. So I'm not great at escape. I don't know where this came from. Like, I was in the Boy Scouts and the Navy. That doesn't make me John Wick guy.
Right.
Yeah. Like what? What?
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Like,
That is it. That has to be like the new name.
Yeah, like I'm gonna pull a Sylvester Stallone up out of there. I'm like, bro, I've got arthritis in my hips. I'm not going anywhere. I don't want to run to McDonald's, much less down the no. I'm not. What? Escape risk? Idiots.
I am definitely gonna say that from now on. People are like, "Well, who's Kash Jackson?" And like John Wick, man, for real.
I was like, it was insane to me. I'm like, this is great. Like, are y'all done playing? Like, that's what I asked him. Like, are y'all done playing already? Are we done with these?
You're just trying to punish you.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And then what's the punishment? Like, I mean, when do they stop? Where does it end? And I think we come back to that same circle. It never ends, right?
Look,
they just accept you, and then eventually people, take that next choice, unfortunately, and don't do it. I think what was the guy? You might know the guy, Cash. He's been around for longer than I have, but the guy that was in like Virginia that killed himself and wrote that suicide note about how the system was out there and his wife like got the suicide note, like try to get it removed, and it wasn't anywhere. It was all for a long time. And he killed himself and like wrote a whole his experience. I'm sure somebody that's about like going through family court. It is an amazing letter, like full of detail about how destroyed emotionally and psychologically and financially, and there's absolutely nothing to these kids anymore. And they just took every single thing and they just kept taking him to court and kept coming after him. And he had he's like, I've done everything and I have nothing left. I have nothing else to give except for myself, and I can't do it anymore. And he wrote this masterpiece of an explanation of being in that spot, going through this experience of family court and being completely decimated in every aspect of his life, to the point where he's like, the only thing I have left now is to end it. And I wrote this letter, and I've lost my kids, and I've lost every single thing I ever had, and everything's gone. And then that was the end. And and they push people to that kind of stuff. And the world's a hard enough place. We don't need to have, like, when you break up from a relationship, have it then turn into this life or death fight over being able to be a parent when you were with them every single day. Like, it's so awful.
Yeah.
It's so sad that that's the way that we have designed the system, and that people still continue to just allow it to be without like, uproar, and to do something different.
Well,
so Nick, oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say, Nick had commented, laws repugnant to the Constitution are null and void, right? Marbury versus Madison.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, that's so many.
Right. Yeah, but if they don't,
what do you do? What do we do?
We continue, and this is like the continuous cycle, right? We continue to come back to, we know there's a problem. We've identified the problems. We've identified the problem players. We have not identified the solution. And the solution is transparency and numbers, unity, togetherness, fighting together. That is our solution, not in opposition, all of this craziness nonsense that's still going on, and I'm sorry to see it, and it happens, right? People have conflicts. That's a nature of just having different people, especially traumatized people. But we, all of us as traumatized people, got to get it together, and we have to move forward and work together side by side.
Yep.
You know, if you and I don't agree on something, or if she and I don't agree on something, let's just agree to disagree. And you work your project over here, I work my project over here. I work better with these people,
Right.
and we plow forward. If we would legitimately bring ourselves together, this would crumple. We would destroy it. Why we
Yep.
not had a roundtable discussion, a big roundtable conference discussion of just all of us, you know? And there are a lot of people that have stayed in this for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years sometimes.
Yeah.
That have been here, and their experience and wisdom is valuable. We got to circle the wagons. We have got to sit down, and we've got to come up with those solutions that we want to implement and go forward without apology, and push it right down their throat, just like they did with this nonsense with us.
Right.
We got
Yeah, we
to get through. Yeah.
They were committed and connected, and they stuck together, and they did all this stuff over and over again. And we get to go out there and do the same stuff. And we have this technology, man. Like, we're on our phones,
Damn right.
I think, and like we're on a live thing on Facebook, and people are like watching us talk about this experience. You know, there's the opportunity to connect and to work on this stuff is like no other in history.
Yeah.
And if we're gonna make this change and we're gonna do something different, this is the time for us to do it. This is it.
Right.
And we got some guys, like you said. I mean, there's the guys that can NPO and stuff. I usually need to reach out. But I mean, they have quite a few guys that have a ton of experience and have been doing this since the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
You know, and
Absolutely.
and whether they got things changed or not, it's not important. They know what they, like we said at the very beginning, they would have did wrong, and they know what didn't work. And if we can not do the same thing they did for 20 years and do something different, then we have a chance.
Yeah.
At least more of a chance of doing the same thing.
And it's building the connections and the relationships. Like, some people, just like Kash was saying, you know, a big round table. Well, there's these round tables happening within the shared parenting community, within the father's rights community. The round tables are happening, but you know, not everybody is connected or involved.
Sure.
So, like,
well,
Zach was just saying,
we're not going to get everybody. But
no,
what I'm saying is there's no substitute for that face to face. You know what I mean? To sit and and build rapport with one another, right next to one another.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Work
that's
on
Zach's
it.
point, though. Like, we're trying to bring everybody in from everywhere and get everybody connected, so we are, you know, more of a unified group.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. If we're fighting against the other father's rights people, how are we able to fight everybody else? You know, like, I mean, you can't fight your brother and also the enemy across the way. Like, you know,
a house divided is not going to stand. We cannot be a house divided.
Both, you know, the enemy is over there, not the guy who's sitting next to me.
Right.
You know, I might punch him in the shoulder or something like that, or, you know, over with. But right now we have a common mission and a common enemy we have to go after, and we need to really be diligent on putting everybody in that spot. And I think that's one of the things Alicia and I have talked about a lot, is how do we bring on people who are in this movement that are doing great things and get more exposure to what they're working on, a chance for us to connect and be part of it, and then work on building these unities and building this coalition, because we get to come together, and a 50-year-old system is out there that's got billions of dollars, and it's entrenched. It's got all the laws. It has all the logistical things on its side to punish individually. And the only chance we have is to come together, work on our own coffers, work on our own goals, and how do we get this to actually move forward and start putting in place the things that are going to make a change.
Right.
You know, and I think like state after state, these states are working, you know, having these people that are actually have passed these bills continue to go out there and work with the other states. You know, it's great seeing Mark and seeing Jeremy and Jeff and those guys, Matt Hale, going and talking to these other states and being involved in, like, writing the legislature, helping them craft their bills. And what a great resource. And they can have those people that have had success to coach them to get more success. And
You know
That's true.
yeah,
That's true.
Yeah.
At the
And
same
that's
time, they say,
yes,
you can't legislate good morals.
right. Well,
So
and that's true, right? Is
as a
that
community, it's putting it all out there
one of
so
the
everybody,
struggles that
I
I
mean,
have here, right? Is that we're continuously asking for different laws, newer laws, better laws, more training, better training.
why?
I'm just not with that. I'm not with
Yeah.
that. You know why? These people, they don't need training, okay? Because what they're doing is deliberate. They're
Snake is a
judges. If
snake.
they don't know the law, if they don't know that they're violating your rights with basic due process when you don't get a motion or a notice of motion and they just sever contact, that is not a training issue. That is a that is a virtue issue. That is an ethics issue. Okay, we have a totally different approach with this.
Right.
All right, because that is deliberate and that is malicious, and to deliberately and maliciously violate your oath and a human being's basic human rights, we need to be holding a way different conversation than 50-50 and other things.
right.
We need the cameras in the courtrooms. The transparency has got to get in there. But if we don't have judicial and attorney accountability, no law that we ever pass is ever going to resolve it.
Yep.
Doesn't matter. You can pass 1,001 laws, but if you don't get to the cancer of the problem and deal with that, you can pass legislation until the cows come home, spin your wheels, because they're going to do what they want anyway.
Right.
So until we get to that, until we start getting at that source, and that's getting people, that's taking your children to court, right? That's getting schools involved. That's getting church groups involved of like, hey, this is a really important issue. It's getting our kids. I mean, when's the last time we organized, like, did you hear of parents organizing a trip to the Capitol building to go see legislation worked on, right?
Yeah.
We've not. I wasn't raised like that. I've not done that. Though I would have had, my children would have had a far more exposure if I wasn't kept out of their lives for this time. But the point being is, we as Americans have to take a responsibility of our own about how and why this still exists. We don't take the time, the effort, and the energy to even go to a local county board meeting.
Right.
You know, we can't be bothered with, the hell with loading the children up and going down to the Capitol building and
in your local city council, it's too big of a pain, right?
Right. Going and meeting the local legislators in their offices, just going down there and going, introducing yourself and saying, hey, I'd like to see what you guys do sometime, and, have that human experience. And by doing so, we break down the fear. And by breaking down the fear, we break down the barriers to the ignorance, which is so pervasive amongst our society about how these systems operate. The more involved we become, the better we will be equipped in every aspect to hold them accountable. But we have to be involved. It has to be a cultural shift that we as parents, as people, say, hey, you know what? It is important.
Yeah.
So if it's important, if something's important, you have to put some time into it. You have to put some energy into it. You have to sacrifice something else to do that.
Right.
So you got to choose your hard. It's going to be hard either way, right? Because as I used to tell my recruits here whenever I was a drill instructor, the stupid shall be punished, okay? And if you don't learn what I'm trying to teach you and learn it rapidly, you're going to be punished and it's going to be painful. And they knew that, but that was a part of that process. It's the same for us inside the court system.
Right.
If we don't know how it works, we're going to be punished because we're stupid for not getting involved.
Right.
Yeah. No, and they play on that. I mean, the judges and the lawyers and stuff, they're more than happy to see pro se people in there because they can do whatever they want. Having to do evidence or anything. They just do what they want to do.
Yeah.
Judges,
they got me good.
Hey, you know what?
They got me good.
I'm not going to stop the lawyer from doing what he's doing. It's not my job to call him out for not doing it right.
Right.
And they let some things slide. They let him ride on it. And if you're not going to call him out because you're ignorant, hey, that's on you.
Right.
And they treat you that way. I mean, I always recommend everybody gets a lawyer and stuff, but the hard part is how do you get a good lawyer who actually cares about what you're doing? And that's the hard part. Have a lawyer because
that is the part
about filing papers and doing all that logistical stuff that is mind numbing for most people, and why most people aren't lawyers is because it is this mind numbing paper pushing process. But that what they do is extremely important. And getting a lawyer who actually cares about you as a person and what's right is so crazy. In that going through the system, there's just so many lawyers who just continue to push the same old. You don't see these lawyers trying to make any changes.
No.
Anything.
No.
A couple.
I mean,
a couple. There's a
There's a
couple.
couple.
Yeah.
But most of
Yeah.
them lawyers before they went through family court.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
like Mark Reel was a lawyer, but he was an entertainment lawyer, right? He was in entertainment and sports and doing the Jerry Maguire thing or something like that. And then he went through family court and then goes, holy shit,
Right. This is terrible.
what is going on?
Yeah.
Or they were alienated kids,
Yeah.
alienated kids,
Yeah.
kids that grew up without their dads.
Yeah.
So
And now he's moved into this whole new realm because of that experience. But that without having that, he would have stayed doing entertainment law and gotten shown the money. So
Right.
now he's doing family. Yeah, it's
There are some good ones out there. I mean,
That's okay.
You've got the Edwin Bushes of the world and the Melissa Isaacs of the world, and there are some excellent attorneys out there. That there was a few I was on a panel with last night, and with Vem Miller, and his show, and they said some things that I've not heard, and I was really pleasantly surprised by a couple of them. So I will say that, now I always take it with a grain of salt, because my brain's going, is that an infiltrator? It's not me being a conspiracy theorist. I mean, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Mhm.
You don't think they're going to take steps and measures to protect that industry? Of course they are.
right.
Of course they
And
are. Right?
They know who we are. It's not hard to find.
They do. They track us. They follow us. They surveil us. They record these. They can't stand it. They absolutely hate this right here. This drives them crazy beyond anything. This is the worst that you can do to them. If you just continuously talk about them and what they're doing, and I say name the bad actors. They have names. We don't need to use government and being like, no, these are public officials. I tell people, look, be a journalist, pick your phone up, go down there, question your public officials, go down there, question your judges, go question somebody else's judge. Just do it and see what they say, see how they treat you. If they don't treat you with respect and courtesy and transparency and like, hey, if somebody came to me and I was a judge and they're like, Mr. Jackson, we'd like to record court proceedings today. Okay, sit in the back. Just don't be disruptive, please.
Right.
Be an easy day. And that's it. I mean, it shouldn't be. It's like an interrogation. You go in there. I mean, sometimes they don't let people's children in there, or they won't let, like you said, didn't let your mom in there. What? This is a public courtroom. What was your mother going to do? Was she going to pull out a samurai sword and
I mean,
chop up?
She just walked through the medical detector.
That could.
You know what I mean? It's like, what are we doing here? What are we allowing?
I think she probably had her knitting stuff. She was like sitting in the back, knitting away, just listening.
Right. Don't be on your phone while simultaneously there was 8 attorneys in front of us on their phones, Facebooking and Snapchatting and Instagramming. What?
Oh, in Wyoming, you can't even take your phone in the courtroom.
Nope.
But
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah.
But an attorney can have their phone and they can Google something during cross-examination.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not fair.
Right.
Right.
What the hell?
Believe it,
Yeah.
whenever
You're
I was
Googling
pro se,
stuff?
I couldn't be on my phone as a pro se litigant,
Me either.
but the attorney next to me could be on his phone.
Yeah.
Well, I'm my own
Interesting.
attorney. I can't use my phone for notes. What?
Nope.
Oh no, you're not. You're just representing yourself. You're an idiot.
You don't have
You're
a
an
bar
idiot.
card.
Yeah.
You're not a
Right.
Let me see your
officer of
card
the
that says you
court.
carry that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot of work, and I think one of the most important things we can do is getting guys that are healed and healthy to go out there, go through the experience, lick your wounds, get yourself in a spot where you're capable of handling the pressure and the difficulties of what this entails. Because like what's happened in your case, it happens a lot of times to people that fight back, is that the system fights back equally as hard or harder.
Oh yeah.
And they,
Oh yeah. It's
no mercy.
daunting.
Yeah.
That's why there's safety in numbers.
Right.
There is safety in
Yep.
numbers. You know, align yourselves, develop friendships in your local area, develop rapport in your local area, develop those bonds. Let me tell you, look, I've been on both sides here, right? Where I was in prison, for instance, and there were times in my life while I was locked up where I felt really hurt that people that I thought should have reached out didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side, a lot of people that I never expected to reach out and support me did, you know?
Yeah.
So understand that, number one, if and when somebody in the community ends up behind bars, we should support them.
Yeah.
You know, it is a dehumanizing experience, and if you've not been behind bars, you won't fully appreciate that. But I just want you to know from a first-hand perspective, it's a very dehumanizing experience, and they need love, they need support, they need people to be around them. And so, you know, I had to feel what it was like because there was friends of mine that got locked up that I didn't do anything for. I didn't send them letters. I didn't put money on their books. I wasn't there for them, and I have to own that. I had to own that, and I can't judge anybody for doing the same, but we got to be there for one another.
So then in that moment while you're sitting there in your cell, thinking about like, man, like how many times did I have friends that got locked up that I could have reached out? I could have dropped $20 on them. And you know what? I can't talk about stuff, but you get to thing and you're like, holy shit, like somebody, like they can make your day, right? Like I'm gonna get, you know?
Oh, they did. They did. You know, no, I tried to pass that along, and because people were generous to me, people did take care of me. They did. And so I had to really appreciate what I had, not what I didn't have. And that included people in my life that were helping me through this process. But, you know, I pass that along. You know, I would help out other men all throughout the jail and throughout the prison. And because there's just a lot of people who just don't have anybody.
Right. Yeah. Those people that are in jail, right, didn't have fathers and probably have kids, aren't being there for their kids.
Right. Plenty. A lot. And it tears them up. I mean, a lot of the poetry I wrote, I would read my poetry to these guys, and you know, some of these guys, I mean, they would just break down bawling. I mean, big, tough, like, you know, gangster fellas. And, you know, some of my poetry, man, they would just freaking come unglued. They'd just start crying. They'd walk off, you know.
That's what you should do is like a, I don't know, a jailhouse tape release or something. Because there's recording that you guys did off the phone with a lot of that poetry. Those were good.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, you got a poem around you right now to end this on?
You want one?
Yeah, let's put up right now and make it the end.
I was not ready for poetry.
It's all right.
I did have them out over here. I was so I was picking some I'm going to do some work with, but anyway.
Those are they're really good. They're so, maybe there was only like 2 that I've heard.
I'll do a short. I'm gonna do a short one. All right.
That sounds good. Let's hear it.
As I sit in my cell pondering my fate, I watch the world below, thinking, am I too late? Time, though a wondrous gift, is yet an impossible burden. From the moment of our birth, our body's hourglass of existence is inverted by our Creator. Does each grain of sand tumbling and falling, sliding to the bottleneck of the glass, represent a timely predetermination of events already in progress? Our cries as infants, still wet from our mother's womb, are perhaps the first grains to pass, each in succession, knowing there's no going back to that place of rest and comfort and protected certainty. Without anyone asking, their world is suddenly shifting, pushing, and pulling them to a new dimension. Life reborn, antagonized and unknown suspension. The end.
Missed that last word.
So that you should get that on Spotify. It should be on Spotify.
Yeah.
You should be able to get that on Amazon. I'm just saying. Most of them are so good. They are.
Thank you.
Yeah. The quote.
They're wonderful. Terrible and wonderful at the same time.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing time with us and stuff. I really, it was great to talk to you the other day and fantastic to be with you again here today also. Look forward to a lot more, man. Definitely excited to be in this fight with you. Look forward to helping our kids have a better world Ourselves.
We're gonna do some great things. I believe that.
I'm stoked.
I see a bright future.
Yeah,
Bright future.
Mount Rushmore. Let's do it up. So, anyways, have a great one, Alicia. Love you like always, and see you soon.
All right.
Thank you,
Bye.
Cash.
Thanks,
Bye.
Cash.